We've all been there, right? The night before a huge, high-stakes exam, staring at a mountain of notes, just wondering, what are they even going to ask? That anxiety, that feeling that it's all just a lottery, it's a universal experience. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if we could actually build a better, fairer test from the ground up? So here's our game plan. We're going to put traditional exams on trial, uncover an architect's secret for building better tests, walk through how to actually construct one, look at the jaw-dropping results, and see why this all matters way beyond just getting a better grade. Okay, let's dive right in. We're putting exams on trial. Because, let's be honest, why do so many of them, especially in a field like medicine where the stakes are sky high, just feel off? It's the one question every single student asks themselves. You put in hundreds of hours, you learn the curriculum inside and out. But does the final test actually reflect all that effort in a balanced, meaningful way? Or does it feel more like a roll of the dice? And look, this isn't just a feeling. It's a real, widely reported problem. This quote right here just nails it. That feeling of frustration when an exam seems like it came completely out of left field, totally disconnected from what you spent months learning in class. And when that happens, the test completely fails at its most basic job. It doesn't reliably measure what students truly know, and its validity, its ability to measure the right things, is shot. The end result is just dissatisfaction for absolutely everyone involved. So how in the world do we fix this? Well, the solution comes from a place you might not expect: architecture. Think about it. You would never, ever build a skyscraper without a detailed plan, right? So why would we build a career-defining exam without one? And this is the architect's secret. It's called an assessment blueprint. And you can think of it exactly like that, an architectural plan but for a test. It's a map that lays out precisely what's going to be covered, making sure the final exam is sound, balanced, and perfectly serves its purpose. Now, the whole goal of this is to achieve what you see right here, something called constructive alignment. It's a beautiful idea. The learning outcomes, the teaching activities, and the final test all link up in this perfect, stable triangle. Put simply, what you're taught is what you learn, and what you learn is what you're tested on. No surprises, no tricks. So the crucial point is that a blueprint directly attacks the two big things that make an exam feel unfair. First, it prevents what academics call construct underrepresentation. All that means is it stops the test from being a random grab bag of obscure topics and ensures everything gets covered fairly. And second, it cuts down on construct irrelevant variance, which is just a fancy way of saying it gets rid of those flawed, biased, or just plain confusing questions. Okay, so this whole blueprint thing sounds pretty smart. But how do you actually build one? Well, let's walk through the process. It's actually more straightforward than you might think. Now, the official academic process can have up to 7 steps, but it really all boils down to these 4 essential stages. First, you map out the entire curriculum. Then, you calculate the weight of each topic to figure out how important it is. After that, you sort everything into categories. And finally, you assign the questions based on that logical structure. Easy. And this table, well, this is the engine that drives the whole thing. It uses a really simple but powerful formula: impact times frequency. A topic's importance in the real world is multiplied by how often it comes up. A high score? That's a must-know topic. A low score? Nice to know. This completely replaces guesswork with a data-driven approach. And once you have those numbers, you can set a clear target for the exam. A really common distribution is something like this. 60% of the questions are focused on that critical must-know stuff, 30% on the should-know topics, and just a tiny 10% on the nice-to-know details. It just makes perfect sense. The test is focused on what truly matters. So all of this sounds great in theory, right? A smart, logical approach. But does it actually work in practice? Well, the results are in, and they are incredibly compelling. Just take a look at these numbers. In one study, where a medical school switched to blueprint-based exams, the student pass rate jumped from just under 83% all the way to over 99%. That isn't a small improvement. That is a total game changer. And it wasn't just about passing. Over 90% of the students agreed that the new exams were way more effective at covering what they actually needed to know, and maybe most importantly, that they were fair. This feedback really gets to the heart of it. You can see from the survey results, students felt the blueprint helped them focus their studying. And that makes perfect psychological sense. When an exam is predictable and clear, it just reduces that cloud of uncertainty. which frees up your brain to actually learn. It lowered their anxiety and made the entire process feel more balanced. And hey, the enthusiasm wasn't just coming from the students. More than 85% of the faculty members also found the blueprinting model practical, effective, and fair. It helps them create better, more consistent tests that actually line up with their teaching goals. It's a win-win. So the big takeaway here is so much bigger than just acing a test. This is about fundamentally changing the entire learning process for the better, with ripple effects that go on for years. When you build a better test, you create this incredible positive feedback loop. Assessment lines up with learning. That reduces student anxiety and makes things feel fair. And because the blueprint is based on real-world impact, the tests actually reflect what's needed out in the field. The end result? You produce more competent and more confident doctors. And that's a win for all of us. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. This systematic, transparent approach clearly helps build better doctors. So the question is, what else could it build? What other professionals, engineers, lawyers, teachers, you name it, could we build better just by starting with a better plan?